Hey friends, Kenny Jahng here from Church Bundle. Just want to check in today with a good friend. We've got Dave from Wordly. Welcome to the show today. How are you doing?
Great, Kenny. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I wanted to bring you on today because a couple of things. One is, as most people know, I've been diving deep into the AI world with Church Tech Today and AI for Church Leaders. So I'm excited to really get to know your resource, etc. But I think for churches in general, this is one of the specific use cases which is so practical that it actually is not in the category of, hey, I want to be an AI nerd and I want to get to know AI. It's a very practical use case that almost every single church out there really should be using and considering, especially in today's day and age. So why don't you just start with what is Wordly? Give us the 15, 20, 30-second elevator pitch so that everyone just understands what category of product and service that you offer.
Sure. So Wordly is a software product. It uses AI, and it makes it easy and affordable for churches to offer live translation and captions at their weekly services. And the benefit of that is it allows you to make your services more inclusive if you have members who don't all speak the language that the service is being conducted in.
Yeah. So at our church, we used to have English services and we started Spanish translation. And I remember we used to have 4 different volunteers on rotation on any given Sunday. We had multiple services, so they would rotate on a volunteer schedule. And sometimes, a volunteer would get sick or they have a wedding that they have to go to, right? And then another volunteer has to cover. And translation is, active translation, live translation is it's pretty grueling. I don't know. You're on your feet. You got to go, right? People are depending on you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a tough job.
Tell us about your service, because what you've effectively done is remove that need for volunteer burnout, trying to figure out who, you have to guilt people into volunteering to translate sometimes to help the community. Just can you tell us about the setup? How is it? And then the second part is we invested in those, it was like little mic packs with earbuds, right? Like the radio
Yes.
receivers. And my understanding is that Wordly, you remove the need to buy this expensive equipment now, and you're not tied to just the amount. I remember there was a couple Sundays we had many more visitors than we anticipated. We didn't have enough of those receivers, and then they're stuck. So just explain to us literally, technically, how does that work from the user's standpoint? Because I think this is quite revolutionary, right? It's removing of need for volunteers or staff and removing the need for equipment. Just walk us through that, would you?
Sure. So a couple of things. So first off, yes. So with the product, so we actually offer over 60 languages.
Wow.
So you get all of those languages. They're available on demand. And one of the nice things about that is sometimes you never know what language you might need. So one week you might need Spanish, and maybe the next week you need French, and the next week maybe you need Korean.
Oh, so you don't even need to, that's on the fly live.
Everything's there on demand. You don't have to pick and choose. You don't have to decide ahead of time. So the languages effectively are there and they're waiting.
Nice.
And then depending on the who shows up for the services that week, everything is there. So from a setup perspective from the church side, it's relatively easy. Essentially, all that's happening is you're connecting the microphone. So the audio system is going to get connected into the Wordly system. And you would do that by either with like a tablet or a laptop. And so, and we go through all this when, with an onboarding session, but typically the setup on the church side for a weekly service is going to take about 5 minutes. It really is that easy.
Wow.
So that part is very easy. And then for the attendee, you can give them a couple of different ways to access the service. So for an in-person service, the most common way is they'll use their phone. They'll scan a QR code. Everyone's familiar with scanning QR codes nowadays. They'll scan a QR code. They don't have to download an app. They don't have to create an account. They scan the QR code. A little window will pop up, and it'll ask them to pick which language they want. And again, they can pick from over 60. They'll select the language, they'll click enter, and then their phone will instantly start to display the live captions, the live
Wow.
text stream that's happening at the service. And so option one is they can read the captions on their phone. If they wanted to hear the translated audio, then they would just plug in their own personal headset. So the one reminder is you'd want to remind the congregation if they want to use the translation service and listen, bring their headset, they plug that in, and then they listen, and that's
Wow.
all that's needed. And so one other item I'll share is you also have the option. A lot of times, what the church may want to do is they may put up a large monitor on the side, and you can actually display one or more of the languages also on a large monitor. And so in cases where there was predominantly one other language that you needed, you might choose to put that language on the large monitor. And then that way, the only people that would need to rely on the phone would be people that needed another language.
Wow. I
So
love it.
again, all that's included in the product.
I love it. So, I learned something today. The fact that you have multiple languages available concurrently on demand, I think, is just another benefit. Now,
Just makes it very easy.
and again, there's no app that they have to download. It doesn't cost anything for the end user, the person who's coming to church. There's no cost on their side, right? For them to.
Correct. No cost for the parishioner, nothing to download, no account to create. And so we're not collecting any so none of their personal information is being collected.
I love it. I love it. You're working with many churches already. Tell us a little bit about like what their experience has been. How have they seen this transform what they do in terms of Sunday services and other programs? Like, do you have any stories to share or some comments that you've heard from pastors and church leaders about this service?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the common feedback we get, number one, is people can't believe how easy it is, because like you shared the example, offering human translators, they're great. They provide a great service, but it can get complex. And so usually the first piece of feedback we get is, they'll say, you told us it was going to be easy, but we can't actually believe how easy it is, number one. And then secondly, we usually get a lot of just amazing feedback on the quality, right? So, a lot of times people will say, wow, I tried this free AI solution available online, and the translation quality wasn't that great. And so, and then when they see our solution and they go, wow, we can't believe the quality was so high. So that's some of the common feedback. And then the other feedback when it, particularly with churches, are that what this is enabling you to do is reach out to a larger community, bring them in, get them more engaged. And so we have other people, telling us that there's more engagement at the services, and it leads to more people coming and more people participating, which is what it's all about, right? You want to reach out to the community and try to increase the number of people that are coming and participating in your services.
Now, one of the things that I know that is a frustration for some other online translation services is that sometimes there's a vocabulary that's specific to our community
Yes.
or church or culture or denomination, etc. And then, the AI gets it completely wrong in the captions and stuff
Yes.
like that. How does Wordly address that?
So we do it a couple of ways. First off, you'd be amazed at how big the translation engine is in terms of the number of terms and the accuracy it has. But on top of that, we provide, so every customer would get a customizable glossary. So your church, you can go in and then you can customize a glossary that might do everything from include, names of, names of the pastor, names of,
Yes.
people that'll be speaking and participating in the services, to make sure that it gets it correct. There may be unique names of local towns that you want to include in there. So you can build up that glossary to include words that you want to make sure it can translate correctly. You can also put into the glossary words that maybe you just don't simply want to ever appear. So we give you a lot of flexibility to control, to control the language that's gonna come out. And it's relatively easy to set up the glossary. and it's something that you can constantly modify over time.
Gotcha.
So it really does help make the solution even better.
Now, I think the Holy Grail would be not just for Sunday services, but you could use it in other parts of the life of the church, in other meetings, and other places. How can a church envision using Wordly outside of just the Sunday service in the sanctuary?
Sure. I mean, you can use it for pretty much any type of meeting, and we have people that are already doing that. So you might have some kind of periodic planning meetings. It can obviously be used for that. It works equally well for in-person as well as virtual. So
tell me more about that.
when it comes to things, so you could use it alongside a Zoom webinar or any other type of webinar platform. So the same product's going to work for in-person. It's also going to work for virtual. It also works for hybrid. So it could be a meeting that's happening part in person, and maybe you also have some people joining online.
Wow. So I love the Zoom integration. So if we were to have Zoom meetings for volunteer training or even workshops for the public, we could have Wordly translate, and I guess it would provide captioning underneath, or would it also have audio?
It would do both. Yeah.
Wow. I love that, Dave. I love that. Well, it sounds like you have a really neat product. This past month, we had a resource from you. If they haven't had a chance to download it, give us 10 seconds on what to expect in that PDF that you provided as a resource for people.
Sure. So we call it the AI Translation Guide, 4 steps, the 4-step process to making your church services more inclusive. And it just quickly summarizes what are some of the challenges that congregations are facing. And we've already shared some of that. You have a community where everyone doesn't necessarily speak the same language. We summarize what some of the options are. And one of those options are to hire human translators. But then more specifically, we talk about the benefits of what an AI solution can bring. And then we talk a little bit about how you would actually implement it in your in your particular church setting.
I love it. Love it. So we'll provide a link here. If you haven't had a chance to actually, open it and read it for your convenience, we'll have a link here. The one suggestion I would have is use it in a discussion in a team meeting. So I think that resource that Dave has provided is great to use as a conversation piece that you can distribute it to everyone, all the leaders, so that they can get educated. You're all on the same page. There's, common language, common understanding, what it actually is. And then just start to ask the questions. How might we use translation in any of our ministry fronts going forward? So Dave, thank you so much for joining us. If people have questions or want to follow up with you, I know that you said to me earlier, you're willing to give demos to people specifically for their context and answering questions that they might have. How could someone get in touch with you and learn more about Wordly?
Absolutely. So if you download the guide, the contact information will be in there. And so the offer we're extending is we will do a free AI readiness assessment for any church. We've worked with dozens of churches across the country, more than 1,000 organizations worldwide. So very quickly on a video call, we can review your setup, let you know if your church is ready. It almost always is, but we can reassure you. We can do a quick demo to show you how it works, and that's usually the aha moment that people get when they see it working live. And so you can contact us. Again, the contact information's in the guide. If you also just come to our website, and if it's possible, Kenny, to share the URL on the website, there's a contact form on the website, and then you can just reach out to us.
Yeah, it's wordly.ai, right?
Correct. Yes. Thank you.
So wordly.ai, or download the PDF, share it with your team, and start the conversation. This is one of the things you've heard me say over and over again. We just need more conversations. You guys might say, yes, we're going to go, fully into it. You might say, hey, let's start testing it out here, 1 or 2 places. Or you might say, hey, this isn't for us now. We know about this resource and let's revisit it in the future. But that PDF is a great conversation guide for everybody in your team to actually understand what's available and what the opportunity is for you. I just love when we use technology to scale the availability of the gospel for all of our communities together. Dave, thanks for joining us. We'd love to have you back sometime soon. But everybody, Check out wordly.ai, and we'll see you again here soon.